So now that we know that Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, coordinated with the White House, trying to overturn the results of our presidential election, what will our government do about it? To address it, to deal with it, to fix it, and yes, to hold Ginny Thomas and her husband accountable. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. Well, you have undoubtedly heard the story by now, seen the headlines like this from the Washington Post. Virginia Thomas urged White House chief to pursue unrelenting efforts to overturn the 2020 election, texts show. So, Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, has been caught red-handed, trying to coordinate with the White House to unconstitutionally, corruptly, perhaps even criminally, overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. All the while apparently keeping her husband, a Supreme Court justice, apprised of what was going on, because she texted that she's been having conversations with my best friend, is what she told Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. She invariably refers to her husband in other interviews, in other settings, as her best friend, so there's no doubt who she was talking about. And she is serving as this pipeline of information about how to overturn the election's results, how to deny Joe Biden his win, how to install Donald Trump unconstitutionally for a second term. She's serving as a pipeline between the White House and her husband, a Supreme Court justice. At the same time, Donald Trump is vowing to take the election fight to the Supreme Court. So friends, this raises four issues that must be taken up by our federal government. I mean, our government can't continue to sidestep these problems as the credibility, the legitimacy of our Supreme Court disintegrates before our eyes. Number one, the January 6th Commission investigating the insurrection must subpoena Ginny Thomas to testify about this pipeline between the Oval Office and at least one justice on the Supreme Court. Two, the Department of Justice must investigate whether the conduct of Ginny Thomas qualifies her as a co-conspirator, as a spoke in what is plainly a hub and spoke conspiracy. Donald Trump is the hub, and there are so many spokes that we lose count. I'll be doing a future video about precisely what a hub and spoke conspiracy is, as distinguished from the more typical conspiracy we use when we're charging criminal conspiracies in court, which is a pyramid conspiracy. I'll be talking in the near future about a hub and spoke conspiracy, what it looks like, and who the spokes are in this conspiracy to overturn the 2020 presidential election. But the Department of Justice must investigate this. Three, the recusal issue. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas failed the recusal test. He decided not to remove himself from a case that involved whether his wife's potentially incriminating text messages with Mark Meadows should remain hidden from the January 6th Commission or should be disclosed to the January 6th Commission. That's what we call a direct conflict. Not simply the appearance of conflict or a possible conflict, it's a direct conflict. And Justice Thomas, if he cared one whit about the ethics of his position and of our law practice generally, he should have recused himself from the case, taken no part. But he didn't. He remained on the case. And it gets worse because he was the only justice of the 9 Supreme Court justices who voted to accept review of the case, presumably so he could vote in favor of burying, hiding this potentially deeply incriminating information about his wife. That issue has to be dealt with, hopefully, by the Judiciary Committee holding hearings to see what Justice Thomas did and whether any of it would warrant opening an impeachment inquiry. And the fourth and final issue, which is somewhat related to the third issue, we have to find some way to create some sort of oversight of the Supreme Court without running afoul of the Constitution, honoring the separation of powers. I mean, there has to be some sort of oversight or enforcement mechanism when it comes to the necessity of a justice to recuse himself or herself, remove themselves from a case in which they have a conflict, because if they don't, it just eviscerates the legitimacy of the Supreme Court and any opinion the Supreme Court hands down. And when it comes to questions of justice misconduct, there has to be some sort of oversight, some enforcement mechanism, because what we have learned is that the Supreme Court cannot be counted on to police itself honestly and honorably. That has to change, friends. And friends, before I end this video, I want to take on one other topic that I know we're going to start hearing more about, and we hear about it periodically when it comes to trying to hold Donald Trump accountable. Because people say, well, you have to prove corrupt intent. Donald Trump just must believe all the things he says, which is pure nonsense. And there's no jury in the world that's going to believe that Donald Trump honestly believes that the election was stolen and it was rigged, etc., etc. This is all nonsense that he spews out in an attempt to retain the power of the presidency unconstitutionally. We're going to hear it now about Ginny Thomas. Well, she was saying all these things to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, but she really believed the election had been stolen. Hogwash. Let me just read one of her texts to Mark Meadows. The Biden crime family and ballot fraud, co-conspirators, elected officials, bureaucrats, social media, censorship mongers, fake stream media reports, etc., are being arrested and detained for ballot fraud right now and over the coming days, and will be living in barges off Gitmo to face military tribunals for sedition. Friends, that is BS. She knows that's BS. It wasn't happening. There are no facts to support it. And you can't say, well, goodness, she must have believed it, therefore it's okay for her to argue in favor of overturning a presidential election, for her to pressure members of the Oval Office, for her to serve as a pipeline between the Oval Office and her husband on the Supreme Court. That, friends, is nonsense. It's the exact same kind of nonsense as would be represented by me robbing a bank and then saying, oh, but you know, I'd heard the bank was holding my money unlawfully. So, you know, I just went in and took what's mine. Nonsense. People weren't being confined as she was writing that text at Gitmo for ballot fraud. That's why it sure seems like Ginny Thomas is knee-deep in a conspiracy with the White House to unconstitutionally overturn the results of a presidential election. And DOJ needs to take that up, because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.